So, sorry, I forgot to re-add us. Anyway, we're here now.
We were down the rabbit hole. It's fine.
Yes. Yeah, we all got trapped for a little second or two. So, welcome, and then Nicole's going to take over.
Hey, everybody. Apparently, I'm doing this. So,
Yeah.
welcome, everybody, in the chat. We are joined today by Brian Tseng and Arkheim. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
No, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's great to have us on together. Just because, where one or more is gathered, right? But having, multiple people with testimonies and that are overlapping, concurrent, it's really...
Yeah, I think it's kind of a little bit of a big deal that we're doing this, actually. It's the first time we're all talking, and I know that it's a powerful thing that we're all going to speak right now. So I'm glad that's happening.
No, massive thank you for all three of you coming on tonight. So, appreciate it.
I am on theme today.
Look.
Montauk happened.
You know what? And while we're at Montauk, that's exactly what I would have drunken if I could have found it while Arkheim and I were hunting around for lobster bisque and lobster sandwiches.
Yeah, I think this man ate his weight in lobster bisque while he was in Montauk.
Right.
It's not in Montauk, actually. I found this in the grocery store.
Just before we carry on, can I just do a quick plug? Not for me. But
It's your show. You can do what you want.
Hey, so I've received the book from Dan Lester. I've shown you guys before.
Yep.
I have had a quick read through it. Oh my God. Anyone who hasn't got the book needs to get the book.
The title, What Really Makes You Ill by Don Lester.
Yeah. Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease Is Wrong. Don Lester and David Parker. And the way it's set out is kind of like a dictionary stroke encyclopedia. And it goes into what the words mean, what they really mean, to what they transcribe into in reality. And just single words that you would think are safe.
Yeah, no.
Not. It's just
programmed. They program our consciousness with words, and they change the meanings of words that have meant something like for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. They change it to the opposite of that. For instance, like, have you ever thought about this? This is a really interesting one. Hello. Hell. Low. That's how we greet people? What kind of planet are we living on where we say hell low to greet each other? That is satanic. That's purely satanic. That's how that's in our culture. Saying, how are you doing greetings? Much better than saying hell low. Yeah, they've taken our words and stolen their power from us.
But you know the word L, E-double-L, and the true meaning behind that and everything related to it. I only looked this up a few weeks ago. Someone in the chat was telling me about it. And it is in so many modern day branding, and also to do with the logos of branding, how it goes back to the cube. And what we was talking about previously is the Saturn worship and the cube and cubism. And it's just... everything, all of that is just interlinked like nothing else I've ever looked up. Yeah.
Well, the symbolism, this has been a topic of discussion with Christopher Jacobs and Sean Bond and Yemi Janae and others, the idea of reclaiming symbolism that's been inverted. For example, like the pentagram, or even like the cube. If you look at the cube and turn it in different angles, and you can form like the more of a tetrahedral or Kaaba shapes.
Yeah.
Right? And then is that a bad thing?
Example here. I know it's a coffee stain, forgive me, but he explained to me yesterday in an interview that actually is going to air later today, so people check it out. It's going to be on the Disclosure Now channel. It'll be airing at like 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's my time, so I know that's different for you guys. But he explained to me how this symbol here, like I said, forgive me, there's lots of coffee stains on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Hold it there. Okay.
These circles that are surrounding it, he explained how those represent different realities, and pulling from before they inverted this symbol and grounding this back into this symbol back into the reality of being a benevolent symbol. He obviously, Christopher Jacobs could explain it better than me, but yeah, I hope that makes sense to the audience.
Yeah. If you go down that rabbit hole, it opens up. It is literally another world. It's just so much down there. It's just fascinating if that's your thing. If it's not, it can be frustrating.
Can I speak to that, Andy?
Yeah.
I'm one of those people where I spent my whole life arguing with people about the rabbit hole and what's in the rabbit hole. And people tell me, oh, Brian, don't go down the rabbit hole, blah, blah, blah. And I'm past that point. It's like, I feel like I'm just speaking to our people now. You know, it's like, I take it for granted. Time travel is real. Super soldiers are real. Secret space aliens are real. There's deep underground military bases under our feet. Like, no shit, pardon me. Like, you know, you got the Pleiadians, Arcturians, the Draco Reptilians, Zeta Reticulan Greys, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of it. And they're flying to different craft. What's powering the craft? What technology they're using? What are their agendas? Are they service to self? Are they service to other? Do they assist the ascension or not? You know, and so it's kind of like, you know, we've already like smashed the mirror. Like, I feel like I went through the mirror and then smashed it and like said, okay, I'm staying on the other side now. Like, anyone else wants to follow, you know, just walk through the empty frame here because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, completely that.
Oh, Baby with a Laser said, hello wasn't used until the invention of the telephone. It was the first word spoken on one. So the story goes, he actually said hello, not hello.
Oh.
That's
Interesting.
Surely, hello was, I don't know when the telephone was invented, so I'm not going to say anything now. I can't remember. Was it 1820?
1827.
Yeah. So
I'm just curious, you guys. Does your audience understand who I am? Should I introduce myself or?
Yeah.
They probably don't know. They might not know who you are. For those who don't, because I know some will. Garrel of Midwest Night Watchers.
Yeah,
he'll know.
Okay.
There's a lot that will know. Some may be a little bit unsure.
Please put in the chat your comments.
Yeah. So basically, if you don't mind me introducing myself, I'm Arkheim Ra. I am a multi-dimensional being with access to different realities all at the same time. And because of this, I'm used for time travel projects and also projects that have to do with different realities working to protect each other and themselves from mutual enemies. And basically, I'm of the bird people, that my ancient self, and I was intercepted because I ended up getting trapped here on Earth. So I got intercepted by these by black magic dark time travel projects, including what is colloquially known as the Montauk Project, but it's actually called Project Phoenix 2. And basically, yeah, my whole thing is exposing time corporations, which are corporations that use time travel as a means of gaining financial prowess and power and control. And they formed entire governments and entire colonies and stuff like that. So my whole thing is exposing how cloning, consciousness transfer, and time travel is being used to seed the galaxy with human life. And the reason why it's being hidden from us is because they don't want to pay us. And so it's being used as a means of slavery. And so my job and what I attempt to do is to kind of break down all the stigmas of like ET, time travel, all that stuff, and have people understand that it's normal. You're not a caveman looking at fire anymore. It's time to accept that this stuff is real. And now what are we going to do about it? Like seriously, on a surface level, like this isn't science fiction. This is real. And we need to respond to it accordingly. So that's who I am, and that's what I do. And I hope I did a good job of explaining that.
Absolutely awesome.
Can I add that part, not only does Arkheim have the ability to like coexist across these different timelines and have that conscious perception and understanding of that, he also, among other things, has the ability in the programs to open portals. And from all the research that I'm doing, that's always like one of like the #1 up there abilities that they seek out in children for these programs. So I just want to throw that in there, Arkheim.
And then they use us as portals in the rituals as well. And due to the cloning aspect, I've been used as an altar and sacrificed quite a few times in satanic rituals. Obviously, if you know anything about Michael Aquino, he was very obsessed with the Egyptian gods, things like that. And I was part of the pantheon of Egyptian gods. I was edited out of the pantheon through time travel by Marduk. But Aquino was aware of that, and that was one of the reasons why I was targeted. I was part of Project Ibis, which was spearheaded. Well, the commander of Project Ibis is my biological father, Carl Emmerman, who I was not born to him in this life. I was born to Mary Wood and Curtis Wood, but basically Mary Wood is my daughter, and then Curtis Wood is my nephew. So this whole life that I live is artificial. It was created by time corporations. I'm still struggling to understand exactly how or why, but I'm beginning to realize that probably a positive time corporation or a positive group that has placed me here. And one of the things that I think that has benefited me is in these organizations, they have a very compartmentalized secrecy where you don't ask and you don't tell, right? And this has backfired on these intelligence agencies greatly because they weren't allowed to share their own intelligence with each other. So, for instance, one thing that has backfired on them greatly is us being here right now and speaking on the internet. This is alien technology, and this technology was uploaded into different people. And the assumption by people in the intelligence agency who have been working in humanity and working with the nefarious group for that, oh, well, they're going to use it for the 5G takeover, and don't ask, don't tell. This is all planned and this is all meant to be. But the reality is it wasn't supposed to come out this fast. It was sped up by people in these projects who were used as guinea pigs as a fuck you to the people who were controlling them. And now we are using the internet to organize and communicate and shut down these time projects themselves. And we're at a scenario where they realize we've hijacked things, but it's too late. They would have to go back in time and change so many things and do so many things, and it could backfire on them to they're afraid to do it. So we are at the cusp of being able to claim a higher and better golden timeline. And it won't be perfect. A lot of people will sell you this hope porn of like world peace overnight or whatever. It's not going to be like that. But the truth is good will continue to struggle against evil, and we will win no matter how long it takes.
And can I say, I think we should, I love that this episode could go more into Project Ibis, because I think that's super important and hasn't been discussed yet enough out there. And then I had another point I was going to remember, but I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Can I give
Project Ibis, like I said, it was them putting the Egyptian gods into human avatars, human bodies. We were already in human form, and they found us and brought us in various ways and in various incarnations on different worlds and stuff like that. And then we were brought into the project here on Earth, and we were used both in our human form and also, you know, like I have a bird form that's about 11 to 16, 17 feet tall, depending.
like in the movie Avatar, they could literally transfer your body, your consciousness into an avatar.
And depending on the mission, they would have us use our human form or that. Or also another thing that they do that's very common, for instance, for clearing out colonies, like for instance, Centurion 5, they'll put us in very large human form, about the size of a tree, and then they would give us laser cannons, and that's how we would cut down all of the trees, is with these laser cannons, and it was our jobs to get rid of them and stuff like that. And on Centurion, there are also dinosaurs and things like that. So if we were building a city, it was our job to clear the perimeter of predators and threats like dinosaurs and things like that. And yeah, Project Ibis was something that occurred here on Earth that was basically spearheaded by the bad Germans, the Nazis.
Yeah.
I say that preemptively because people get the wrong idea when you talk about them. Like, apparently if you talk about them, that means you support them. It's silly. Or at least that's what the algorithms think, the censorship algorithms. But yeah, that's that. You know, it's been a really interesting thing learning about Project Ibis for me because I saw Carl Emmerman for the first time because of my brother. So John Whitberg is another public person who I highly recommend you talk to, and he's my half brother. And Carl Emmerman is our father, and it's one of those things where it's just such a powerful thing finding each other through these programs, because one day it was eating away at me, and I was just like, I need to know who like my father is and my mother and everything else. And I figured out that Penny Bradley is my mother. She's public. We're both public about it now. She is my biological mother. But I didn't know who my father was, so I just asked him. I was like, hey, we're half brothers. I know Penny's not your mom. So that means that the father is the common denominator here. Who's your father? And so he showed me the picture. And this guy, dude, he looks just like my father. Like looks like they could be like identical twins almost. And he looks a lot like me. And I got all this information during a family gathering. So I texted my father and like, you know, they got the phone, and none of them were like, Arkheim's crazy. They're all like, what the fuck? They're all just like, what is this? Like, they're blown away by it. Like, because it looks just like we're Woods, right? That's our family name. Although technically it's Emmerman, but they're all just like, this guy looks like Kurt. Like, you know, like, so it's just been a wild journey of that. And to be honest with you, I recommend if people want to learn more about Project Ibis, just read my brother John's book,
The Man with Periwinkle Eyes.
The Man with Periwinkle Eyes, Part 1, Fire and Rain.
For free on Scribd.
It's free on the internet. Just look it up. It's on like Archive. He's got the audiobook on his YouTube. But yeah, if you want to learn about Project Ibis, for me, I'm halfway through like the first part, and it's been so triggering.
I told you, Archie. I told you, bro. I knew that you'd be like, whoa.
I mean, he's talking about my father, like Carl Emmerman comes up with the book a lot.
As I was reading it the first time, I'm sorry, Archie, as I was reading The Man with Periwinkle Eyes for free on Scribd, thanks to John Whitberg, I didn't realize as I was reading it, and only until recently did I learn that Emmerman was your father. So that puts a whole new context on it, for sure.
Yeah,
and just to give a little bit more detail on this, the deal is these time travel projects have been always about manipulating humanity to put us under the control of like the Illuminati derp state cabal types who are under the Draco reptilians and Jahami negative Anunnaki. There's probably positive ones too.
Yes.
And you're right, and the negative ones of those. To then put all of humanity on a negative timeline, generally a transhumanism timeline, where they can enslave and manipulate and exploit humanity to then conquer the rest of the galaxies.
Firing big time from like. So one of the problems that I have with these projects is I have amnesia. That's a staple of the programs. You're not supposed to remember things, and people always tell me, "You remember so much. You remember so much." From a broader perspective, yes, but also I forget more than I remember. But I can see through what I do remember and what I'm experiencing in real time here in this life, like there are time corporation or time forces that are working to try to help humanity. There are galactic forces who are trying to help us. I have memories of like diplomatic kind of meetings with certain ETs to explain to them, like, here's the thing that's going on a massive galactic scale with Earth and the humans that are on Earth. Is what we have here is like a legal spirit, like a legalese spirit trap, right? Like there's a spirit trap here. People are being used over and over again. And a big part of it is like, it's like legalese doing it all. Like, oh, consent is a really powerful thing. And most extraterrestrials like respect consent and believe that a violation of consent is like a violation of galactic law, and it's like this huge deal, and they make a big deal about it, and they will come and help people and interfere militaristically if consent is being violated. But what humans don't understand is we have humans violating the consent of humans on a human planet, and they don't know how to deal with that. For example, people are like, oh, why don't we have med beds? Why don't we have med beds? We should have medical beds, like the regeneration beds, that so we can live forever and yada, yada, yada. Well, we do have them here. And the ones that we do have, they're Palladian ships that came here to help some of these kids that were being harvested for adrenochrome in some of these underground facilities and stuff like that, and rescue them. And they got intercepted by Earth militaries, hijacked. We took med beds, we took a bunch of technologies for them, and now those technologies that we intercepted, instead of using them to benefit humanity and help ourselves, we use them to create super soldier programs, to go back in time and grab people's severed heads and throw them in there and be like, hey, you want to be a colonist now? Stuff like that. That's the stuff that we use this technology for. It's horrifying to these ET, the things we use this technology for. So here we have people like false advertising, like we're going to get this soon, med beds and stuff like that. It's like, it's not that we can't have them, but we have to recognize our consent is being violated, recognize the mind control being done all around us, say, hey, this consent is false, it was done through mind control, and we have to say that at a galactic scale, appeal to galactic courts, which some of that is happening right now. And it's a process, but basically the idea that we've already kicked off these invaders is false, but the idea that we can and will kick off these, like get rid of these invaders, is an important one, and it's true. There is stuff going on. Like I don't want to like give people like hope porn or whatever that everything's taken care of, but also when you hear about the fact that there are positive groups going in and going to some of these facilities and some of these bases and engaging in firefights with them and things like this to clear out some of these facilities because they're doing things that are very wrong, that any person with a consciousness, like a conscious whatsoever, will agree is wrong. Like some of these things are being cleared out, but the idea that it's like all done and it's all taken care of is false. Anytime that you figure it out, it's savior programming, and we have to be conscious of the fact that in a million different ways, there's different religions, different enclaves within the SSP community, whatever, that tell you everything's taken care of, trust the process, nothing can stop what's coming. They say it a million different ways, but basically the message is be passive. There are these heroes behind the scenes that took care of all of it for you. But the reality is we're all powerful conduits of knowledge and information, and we all have a responsibility to wake up and consciously manifest this no, I do not consent, which has become a famous phrase. And it's not that nothing can stop what's coming. It's something that they could, but as long as we continue to keep coming together and saying no, it's like an active thing. Like we are actively manifesting the golden timeline. There's nothing that stepped in and took care of us for. We have to recognize that as human beings that we're powerful manifestors. We're all kind of warlocks, witches, whatever. And we need to step in that power and do it consciously so that we're manifesting a higher reality as compared to a darker reality. And once we accept that responsibility and do that together, it's not one or two people. Everybody has to do that. That's when we start creating this higher timeline. And thankfully, the few people who are like leaders or whatever, are stepping into that. And all it takes is just like the people to follow and step in line and realize their own power, become leaders themselves, because we're all powerful. And that's a problem with humans. If leaders are cool, it's good to have people you admire and look up to and be like, hey, and follow them, and they live by their example, and then you become a better person. But we have this problem where we fall into worship programming, to where when we find that person, we're like, okay, tell me what to do. Master, tell me what to do, master. Daddy, tell me what to do. And it's like, no, you're powerful. You have your own power. Stop looking for gods. Stop looking for masters. Leaders are okay, but you are a leader. We're all leaders. We're in this together. That's the important thing that we need to understand.
Yeah.
And I want to chime in on a couple of things. For me, like when I hear nothing can stop what's coming, like I don't see it as be passive. I see it as more like we're going to win and then fight.
It's a mantra.
Right. And then
and own it as a mantra, not as a statement. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like
as long as you're be active.
The reason why nothing can stop what's coming is because of you, not because of some other person out there or whatever. It's because you're saying no. Everyone's saying no. That's why nothing can stop what's coming.
And then I want to say, regarding the time travel projects, and Arkheim was testifying to the abuse of medical bed technology in the programs, where they could torture you and abuse you, and literally, as long as they got your severed head, or even they can regenerate you within like usually a 24-hour period.
To do that. One of the things that we do to time soldiers, which sometimes corporations weren't wise to it and they got their asses handed to them because of it. One of the things that we did to Montauk was we would kill the kids over and over again in heinous ways. And every time we regen them, we'd ask them, do you remember me? And they'd have to say your name and tell them that they remember you. Otherwise, they would go through the whole thing again. And then when they woke up and they would be able to tell you your name, like what you just did to them, whatever, and they remembered, that's when they were effective time soldier. Because then what we would have is we'd have other groups who would kidnap them, kill them, put them in a regen and think, all right, we got them. They're an asset working for us now, and now they can infiltrate or whatever. Meanwhile, they have no clue that we broke them in and made it so they can't forget. They're going to wake up and they're going to remember. And we use that to our advantage. And now that's kind of more commonly known that time corporations can do that, and you have to be careful when you kidnap assets. But there was a time where people didn't know that. So it's pretty wild, guys.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, and more.
Go ahead, Brian.
And then Penny Bradley, she testifies to being used in the programs, some of them, as a Valkyrie, where they would go to these ancient battlefields, cut off the heads of the fallen warriors, bring them like shown in Rebel Moon on Netflix. Basically depicts this, like, why are Viking Scandinavian dudes milking cows on a foreign planet? What's that about? That's basically what that's about. That's how you populate and generate colonies and civilizations. Why not get your hardy Viking warriors and beautiful gals and your milk cows and time travel back 1,000 years or however many long.
Cows with us like everywhere. We love cows, man.
and then go back 1,000 years through a portal, set up shop. You're now in Valhalla. Go free. Here's some swords. Be careful of the dinosaurs. Take them out while you can. Come back every now and then. You portal, drop off supplies, make sure the colony's going. Whatever.
Interesting aspect of this is like, so there'll be like ET worlds, like, and time is crazy because like here, part of the reason why they hide time travel and the breakaways is because time travel gets screwy, and in the breakaways it makes things screwy. Like, for instance, like there might be an ET planet and everyone's just like hanging out, and then one day they wake up and there's a bunch of human beings that are here now. They have a colony here. And I guess they've been here for 600 years. Like, this will happen like overnight, and their whole history will change. Everything has to adjust and stuff like that. We are considered. People don't like to hear this. Don't kill the messenger, guys. We are cockroaches out there. We show up. We infest. We are impossible to get rid of. There are different ETs will literally hire other ETs to come in and be exterminators to get rid of us so they can get their colony back. Like, that's the reality. It's not, why is the government hiding ETs from us? They're scared of us, guys. They're afraid of us. That's literally part of it. Is they are actually afraid of us because we go around and we show up places and we go, hey, this looks nice. Beautiful place you got here. I think I'm gonna live here now. Can you get out of our way? Can you move? And it's like, what? That's what we're doing out there. We're being Vikings basically and just conquesting. Like the whole westward expansion kind of ideology that we have here in America, like that exists in the breakaway colonies. Like
shown in The Expanse.
Yeah. Like, so that's a big part of this. It's just like, yeah, we are colonizing space. They are lying to us. And like, if they told you the truth, like there would have been riots in 1991 when the Black Terror happened. And I might be slightly off by the year there, but like when the Black Terror happened, people on Earth would have been mad about it and would have protested. There's all sorts of things we did. Genocides on Mars of ant people, raptors, stuff like that to steal their territory. And if we would have known about that on Earth, a lot of us would have said no. But since they keep it hidden, there's no one to say no to it. And that's how these time corporations operate. They use secrecy as a cloak to be able to do what they do. And that's why you have to shine the light on them. Because you want to know what cockroaches do when you shine the light on them? They scatter. They run. They get afraid. Yeah. They don't feel so powerful anymore either. So it's important that we do that. We continue to disclose this stuff, continue to put the truth out there. They can't stop it because there's so many of us. Like, there's just too many of us talking about this. That's what's going on.
Yeah. And according to Audrey Walters, who's a contactee or works with the Galactic Court System, which is linked to some, I don't know which Galactic Federation. I just say the Galactic Federation types, because there's maybe a real one, or there are real ones. There's versions, the Confederation of Worlds, Galactic Federation of Worlds, the Galactic Federation, and then there's masqueraders and psyops. So use your discernment, people, but it's not like they're not there.
About using your discernment, not to interrupt you, Brian, but we hear this a lot in our community, and I want to step on my soapbox for a second and say something. People think use your discernment means trust your gut. And in fact, there are literally people who will tell you use your discernment means trust your gut. No. They sabotage our connection to source through our gut. You are literally your umbilical cord, your aura, your energy, everything is connected to source through your gut. But they severed that. They got rid of that. So when they tell you to trust your gut, unfortunately, you kind of can't. Use discernment. Yes, your gut is there. We can activate it again. We can clear the muck, clear the mud, clear the mind control programming, and get it to the point where you can use your gut again and trust it. Part of that is detox, parasite cleansing. That's a big important thing. Yeah. Big part of that. But to trust your gut again, it also you have to do that, like detox and all those things, which I'm on the soapbox and I could do more of that myself. But that's important. Then also, you have to, it's not just that, it's like you kind of have to use research. Like, it's an active, continual process, because we're constantly being presented with information. And what does Michael Aquino call it? Psy-war, psychological warfare. That's what we're dealing with. We are dealing with, every day of our lives, psychological warfare, and you're literally in the trenches. So it's not just, trust your gut. It's like, no, you're being attacked. You are literally being attacked at every direction. Like, this is true. This is true. This is true. And meanwhile, the truth is like way over here. Like, that's what the disinformation war is. It's putting out so much BS that you can't find the truth. Like, for instance, one of the reasons why it was so hard for me to get to the SSP community and realize my own truth is because every time I felt like, okay, let's look for this. Let's cling. Let's find something in the real world. I would look into it and find false representations, false realities. Like, for instance, I'm going to use names here. Corey Good. He's been exposed as a bit of a fraud. Well, he was speaking truth, right, with false stuff at the same time. I was able to sense that a lot of people couldn't. And that's what I'm talking about with this psychological warfare. Is they're putting people in the community out there who will literally be like, yeah, see, super soldier programs are real. We're on Mars, and they're telling you the truth. But as long as they mix enough bullshit in there with that, doesn't matter. Isn't a threat to the powers that be. And that's why it's so important that we just continually realize that discernment is a process. We're in it together. We are discerning together. We are using our knowledge and our network of information together to discern. It's a process that it's like every day. It's like work you have to do. It sucks, but that's part of living on the planet Earth in the 2024 is when you're presented with information, 90% of the time, it's not even real information, and you have to recognize that. And it's like your brain has to be like a water purifier, where when the information comes in, i.e. water, you have to purify all the crap out of it, and then make sure what you actually soak in is just water. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Get that. Right, quick question for you, kind of, from Baby with a Laser. He's asking, Arkheim, can you explain who Michael Aquino is?
Michael Aquino was a psychological operations director of the military who publicly went on Oprah and other different media outlets in the early 90s and late 80s to basically talk about the fact that he was a Satanist working for the military, and that's fine. And if people don't like that, they're prejudiced, basically, which was part of the psychological warfare. And, he went on there and he had his eyebrows looking like Eddie Munster and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't think people took him that seriously. And I think that was actually part of the thing. It's because he was trying to make satanic panic look like a viable thing. Like Satanism, it's not it's not a problem or a threat. It's all satanic panic. That was a big part of this.
It's these crazy Christians. They're making it all up and false memory syndrome. Don't believe all these kids and teenagers and even adults.
Memory syndrome and things like that. And they're mixing that in with a little bit of reality, unfortunately, which is part of what confused people. Because, like, some of these heavy metal bands and people like, I'm Satanists. Aquino would call them card-carrying Satanists. He's like, he talked about it. They flash it at cocktail parties. They try to make people think they're cool because of it. He despised that. He's like, no, I'm a real Satanist. And, like, people need to understand that, like, there's a difference between these people who are a victim of the pop culture and things like that. And
they're fashionable.
Yeah, they join heavy metal bands, and they're not literally worshiping Satan, but they're feeding into it kind of one way or another. You need to understand those people aren't the enemy, though. The enemy is the people who are literally, they are part of the Temple of Set, not the Levan set. The Levan set is more, like I said, the card-carrying cocktail party people. They're not harmless, but they're not like pure evil like the Temple of Set people. And they like he talks about how in the military, because he got investigated, and like, hey, he's allowed to do anything he wants within his religion as long as it doesn't violate the law. Cool, military, awesome, I agree with that. But his religion does violate the law, like hurting kids. And I'm being colloquial here. I'm not using the terms I should use, but hurting kids is part of their religion. It's part of the religion.
Archie, around that time when he's coming out on Oprah doing his Eddie Munster routine, and Satanism is cool, right? He was also there were charges and allegations coming up about how he was guilty of abusing children through like at the Presidio.
The Presidio Institute. Then there was another thing connected to the Catholic Church, Boys Town, which they invert the message of Jesus and turn that into Satanism. That's the thing. Their whole thing is they love to invert things. They love to take things that are positive, make them negative. Take things that are negative, make them positive, and use that as psychological manipulation to control people. Because if people are confused, that's chaos, and then you can operate from that chaos. And it's problem, reaction, solution. So that is literally how their religion operates. Is they create chaos on purpose. Like right now, for instance, I'll bring something up, and it's controversial, I know, but you see how all these, it's in the United States and in the UK, you see how all of a sudden there are these boats full of immigrants showing up places, or buses, or whatever. Like, I love people from every part of the world, and I feel sorry for refugees and stuff like that, but they're being used as political. They're like fodder. Like they're like these people from Romania are being sent to the UK, and they're like, "Hey, you want to get on this bus?" And they're like, "What?" And they're just like, "Yeah, there's opportunity here. Like your country's falling apart. UK is doing good. Come with us." And they're like, "I get sure, all right." And they get on the bus and they get there and they drop them off. All right, bye. Wait, what about the resources and stuff? What are you talking about? Bye. Like, you know what I mean? And they're doing that in New York City. They're doing that all over the place. They're intentionally creating chaos. All
their game plan, by the way.
Yeah. All during like an election cycle too, which is like, come on, people. Like it's so obvious. Like, and it's just how they operate. Is if they create chaos, then they can come in and be like, hey, we have solutions. We can solve all these problems for you. And so it's just really important people recognize that when this kind of stuff is going on. I don't claim to have the actual solutions. That's part of the thing that sucks is they create all these problems, and then it's like, how do you solve them? But it's just important to recognize that they're doing it on purpose. It's really important to recognize that.
I wanted to say, while we're down the rabbit hole on Michael Aquino, maybe you could share with the audience some of your recollections and other people's recollections of Michael Aquino in these off-world and secret space programs and stuff, because there's a lot like what you gave.
He loves to. I don't know what I can say on the show. He assaulted me more times than I can count in rituals, more times than I count when I was a child. He likes children. Lilith loves children. They love children. They love abusing children. That's their kink, as it were. And it's like, whatever, kinks are fine, but when your kink is abusing children, you deserve the fucking guillotine, all right? Those people shouldn't get any fucking room. And that's why I say when the military was like, oh, well, he's allowed to practice his beliefs, sure, whatever, but no, hurting children is a part of their religion. It is literally part of their religion. Stealing the innocent from kids, stealing their power from them, stealing their energy from them. It's all part of their religion.
And Arkheim, where did you see him? Like, didn't you see him? Like, I spoke with someone recently. I'm even forgetting who. Like, they remember seeing him on Mars.
I just know that I saw him a lot. I know that he was at Montauk. I know that him and Preston Nichols were good buddies.
For those who don't know who he is, I've got a picture of him, so I'm going to put it.
I should bring up Preston Nichols too. Preston Nichols was the programmer at the Montauk Project.
Right, yeah.
He was the one who programmed, mind controlled all the children, and usually through abuse. So,
yeah. So that's Mr. Eyebrows.
Eddie Monster looking ass. Look at that clown. Yeah, man.
And then I remember they have recall seeing him on Mars. One of these secret space program type things. Like it was like
and they all work with each other. Like he's friends with George Bush Sr., Ian Jr., Hillary Clinton. Like these are all friends. Like the Bushes and the Clintons. They're great friends, man. They love each other. Like you know what I mean. And then of course. But Democrat, Republican, which let me explain this to people, and credit to Dan Armstrong for reminding me of this because I've been parodying this a lot, and this is something that I knew in the programs, but I forgot, and he reminded me of.
Yeah, he was the one with that right recall. With the recall on Mars.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, he's great. He's a great guy. But he talks about how the red and the blue, which here in the United States is the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, which the Clintons would be the blue, and then the Bushes were the red. And what they do is, like, if you ever look at a siren on a police car, it's red and blue, emergency, going back and forth. Think about that word. We're talking about word magic. We're talking about chaos magicians.
Yep.
Emerge and see. So what they do is they create chaos, and then through ritual, emerge what they want through that chaos. So that's what they're doing right now on the political stage with the Democratic and Republican Party, is they're creating chaos and then using that to be magicians to control the public. Yes, this is Preston Nichols, and he was the lead programmer at the Montauk Project, Project Phoenix 2.
Not what I expected him to look like.
No.
He looked a lot better in the programs. He is a fat slob here in the real world, as they call it.
Yeah.
But then going back to these colonies and how unjust a lot of the establishment of them has been, as Arkheim has testified to here, and many others. According to Audrey Walters and via the Galactic Court System, these secret space programs, off-world colonies, they're being given an ultimatum. And the ultimatum is this. For one, they've told their own people in the programs, part of how they enforce their system of slavery is by telling the people in the programs that Earth is no longer inhabitable. It's been rendered. It's been rendered unlivable.
Cobalt bomb, virus killed everybody. They have a few different stories they love to tell everyone. Right. So yeah, they always tell you the Earth is gone. Because think about it, like Mars, for instance. Just quick interlude. It's like this desert, crappy planet. If people knew Earth was right there, and they're like, "Oh, it's full of radiation, you can't go there." If people knew that, they might actually try to leave and go there because Mars kind of sucks. So like that's just the thing. They like lie to people and tell people that like Earth is like dead, it's uninhabitable, and it won't be habitable again for thousands of years, if ever.
Right. So it's either so they have to do two things. One, make two decisions basically. One decision is, are they going to come clean and tell their own people that Earth is inhabitable, and yeah, we're all here. You guys are the 4-hour tour, not us, or 3-hour tour. And then also, they then have to let all of us on Earth know that they exist. And then also, there are a lot of these colonies, apparently, that they have to abandon or they're going to get wiped off. Because, like Arkheim has said, those colonies don't belong there. They don't belong there. Very unjustly. It's like rape and murder.
I can attest to the fact that like the ant people, there are ant people here on Earth, okay, that we got rid of, and they're still here, but there's a lot less numbers, and they stay under the ground because they're afraid of us. And then also on Mars, same thing, ant people. And then on Centurion 5, which is like this planet that is a big part of my story, which is in my book. I should show people or whatever it is. Yeah,
I got my copy.
Yeah. I talk about Centurion 5 and how they colonized it.
Archie, real quick. The book you just waved, your book, your very first book, what's the name of it, brother?
Time and Space Unlimited by Arkheim Ra.
And you can get it
The implications of portal technology explained.
Yeah.
And it's on Amazon.
There you go.
Yeah, and I go a little bit in depth about Centurion 5 on there, but basically like like Admiral Akbar from Star Wars, it's a trop, that guy.
The Mon Calamari.
Yeah, they're real. They're called the ALIEN8UK, and they were on that their home world was called Ilaria, and that's Centurion 5. We colonized that planet, and they became like a subjugated slave species on their own planet. And that'd be one of those scenarios where like when the galactic courts come in and talk about this stuff, they'd be like, no, yeah, you came in and stole their planet. Like I remember it. Like I remember we got there and we had to go back in time because they did get advanced and they're smart. Like a lot of smarter species, they're xenophobic. They don't really care about going out in the stars and yada yada. It causes problems. They just hang out. Like, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how they were. They just stayed on their planet, hung out. They had a nice planet, a nice world. Didn't really like visitors too much. Tried to be friendly to them if they showed up, but kind of explain like, hey, you have a good thing going here. Like, please leave. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's how they were. And we went back in time and took their planet. And it was because there was a battle in the future. So the Centurion class planets usually have to do with some sort of battle or some sort of time travel thing for warfare, to where they deem it necessary to take over their planet and do that. And yeah, there's this war that the Joint Navy Space Fleet, which is the UN. So the UN has its own secret space program. And it's called the Joint Navy Space Fleet. And Centurion 5 was colonized by them because there's some battle in the future that they're going to lose. And Centurion 5 is in a temporal rift and also in a region of space that there's just so much stuff going on, people avoid it. It's like hard to get there. And so it made the perfect, we can colonize this place and people won't even notice it, which we were right. People didn't even notice it. And then, we were able to be ready for this battle in the future that we were normally going to lose, but we had all these warriors ready because we made a whole planet full of everybody was raised to be part of the military. And we actually won the battle because of that. And then, of course, everyone got rewarded by their population slowly being thinned out and the planet being turned into a resort colony. That's how everyone got rewarded for their service, because that's how these fucking time corporations work. They're just terrible.
Which, if I may, that's exactly how they used to do it, like ancient Rome or what's now the UK, right? Where they would come in, carve up the land, and say, well, you helped us colonize this area, so that now you go from a knight to a baron or a duke or whatever, and this land's your land, have at it. Yep. Oh, never mind the locals, right?
Yeah, that is kind of how it is. And, I have a story, too, about the ALIENs. I'll just tell briefly. So, and because I think that it gives a lot of context to a lot of things that people are struggling to understand. If you don't mind, if it's okay.
No. Actually, full disclosure, in Star Wars, that's probably one of my favorite ET races. Like, I want to know more about the Mon Calamari, the ALIENs.
Yeah. So this is in my book as well, the story. So I'm kind of giving up, a chapter away in my book, but that's okay. Basically, the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch Kids and all that has to do. When they talk about Tartaria, that has to do with time corporations altering timelines, getting rid of people who are too psychic or whatever. So if DNA comes into the population where it's developing and it becomes too psychically enhanced, like I said, they have to cut off our source. That's the whole thing. We can't be psychically aware if they want us to be slaves. So if we start becoming psychically aware, they will literally do a reset or something like that, and they'll kill everybody. And then, they need workers. So they'll reset the population through orphan trains and Cabbage Patch Kids and stuff like that. And I've experienced that numerous times I've been cloned a million times, and they just love using me over and over again. And I remember one of my lives on this world, which ironically enough was probably a monarch mission, which monarch missions are where you're put into a lifetime to change history and to make an event occur, but you are totally unaware that you're a time soldier. You have no clue that you're programmed. And you just do it because you're programmed, and you think you're doing it by your own volition and your own free will, but you're not. You're programmed. That's why it's called monarch programming. It's because a monarch butterfly, it comes out of the cocoon, it knows exactly where to go, exactly what to do. It's programmed and understand. It doesn't need to learn. That's what monarch programming comes from. And I think that this was a monarch mission. I don't really understand why they wanted this political outcome, but I think they wanted the people of that planet to stop being so specious towards the ALIENs. And so they created this scheme, I guess. I don't know how, but basically I was an orphan, and I was roaming the streets and struggling to eat, sleeping in gutters, living that life. The life of an orphan that was unwanted. And the restaurants, if you try to go into a human restaurant to get food as an orphan, they don't even bother. You're going to, you know what I mean? You have these high clientele. So food was used to control people on that planet. The poorest of poor people ate like this powder that you would get delivered to your door. And we're great because everyone gets fed though. So that was like a claim to fame to them. The fact that everybody gets to eat this weird fucking powder stuff that they bring to their door. You mix it with water and it's like Star Wars. It like turns into like a cake and then you eat that. So everybody gets to eat that, but but that's not real food. And then food has like spiritual energy in it, which they don't tell people about, but you can feel it. So everybody really wanted real food still. And so they use food to control people big time on this planet. And because of that, a lot of humans, working class humans, actually couldn't afford to eat at most restaurants. They were really expensive to eat at. And if humans did eat there, it was like an occasion. And there was this ALIEN guy who he wanted to make money by catering to the working class humans. But the problem was the humans were specious. They were racist against the ALIENs. And and also we were afraid of their food and stuff. Their food was different than ours. But there are these certain ALIEN restaurants where it's like like when a Chinese restaurant shows up to America and they say it's Chinese food, but it's like totally different version. It's Americanized. It's kind of
hey, Archie, I resemble that comment. Keep going.
Yeah, so but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like it's Chinese food, but the American version, like it was like that ALIEN food, but a humanized version of it, like because they would eat slugs and things like that, and so they knew we didn't like that, so they wouldn't put that in the food and they change it and stuff like that. And but like I was this like little kid who would show up there to beg for food. But the difference between me and most of the other kids is I told them, hey, I'll do dishes, I'll work. I just want some food, you know? And so he actually let me eat a meal and do the dishes. And once a day, I would get an actual meal and do the dishes at this restaurant. And it turned into one day, I was in there, and I was older now. I was from 11, 12. I was between 11 and 14, roughly. I don't know the exact age. But one day I was in there. I did the dishes for the earlier part of the day, and I was eating my food, and I was done. And I was like, hey, I'm going to see you guys later. And I remember, and I wish I could remember his name. It's really weird. I don't even remember his name because he was like a father figure to me. But he was like, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm going to leave. And he's like, nah, we're about to experience like the lunch rush and then the evening rush, and we need you. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you've watched him. And he pointed to this guy. How many times have you watched him do prep every day while you're sitting there eating? I was like, I don't know, more times than I count. He's like, okay, well, you're going to go over there and help him. Do you need any instructions? Because I don't want to have to tell you what to do. I was like, no, I don't need any instructions. I know exactly what to do. And just slowly I worked my way up in this restaurant, and their taste buds are different. So I became his human taste tester and helped him make humanized ALIEN food to where humans would like it. And I remember that it was a social stigma to eat at a restaurant, pretty much. But certain people would do it because they could afford it and they got off work and they're hungry. So they would eat at a restaurant. But I remember what changed that was these two rich ladies that were like eccentric rich ladies that were well known. The newspaper would talk about them and stuff like that. They showed up one day to the restaurant and they're like, oh yeah, we've heard good things from people and we're going to try it out. They loved it. And then since they ate there, like it made all these other people think, okay, it's okay to eat there, I guess then, and it just blew up until there are other ALIEN restaurants copying us and stuff like that. And then what happened was eventually he was my father, even though he was an alien and ALIEN. I consider him for this lifetime. He raised me, and he was my father. And he handed off the restaurant to me. Like I became in charge of his restaurant, and there was like a Polish colony, a German colony, a French colony. I just remember like different newspapers came to talk to me about this, and it became like a global story, and it made people who were speciesist feel terrible. Like no humans took me in. All right. No one would take me in. That was a part of my story. I was spit on by humans. And this guy who wasn't even the same species as me took me in and passed his legacy on to me, man. Like that was such a huge story for the planet that it like changed. And I'm not sure why they want that, like, because it confuses me. Like, why would they want people? I'm not sure. But I just know that was like in a weird way manufactured or something. Like they wanted the political climate to change on the planet. Maybe they wanted to naturalize the planet back to the Illyrians and let them have it back. And that was their way because they're going to thin out the planet and turn it into a resort colony. So maybe they're just going to keep the small cities and be like, okay, you guys can have the rest of your planet back as long as you let us have these few small cities. I don't know what it was, but they wanted to change the attitude on them. And through that event, they did.
And if I may, a couple of things here. If you want a workforce to grow and populate, you have to figure out how to feed them. It sounds like the Soylent Green cake add water to powder method wasn't working. And if that works,
well, I have an alter named Marshall Howard. This is a different life. I lived multiple lives on this colony through different eras of it. And one of my alters was Marshall Howard, and he worked as a miner and construction worker and stuff like that. And I would witness guys fighting to near death over a cheeseburger.
Because they had contests, right?
For real, no. Like guys would we'd get in a circle, and they'd be like, "Hey, this is a freshly. Can you smell it? Like, you know what I mean?" And they'd be like,
yeah.
And the guy would get his fucking face beat the fuck in, like to near death for a cheese. That's how you control a population, you guys. Is by making food that valuable to people.
And if you look at how,
and that's what they're trying to do with the World Economic Forum. That's what they're trying to do with that. That's those same people that created that environment on Centurion 5. They're the same people that are, because it's all the stuff that I saw there. Like I'm able to recognize. Like that's the same people. The World Economic Forum. It's the same people. That's what they want here. And thankfully, I feel like we're doing a fairly good job of saying no to them. We do need to do better, though.
Yeah. Right. I've got a couple of questions for you before I forget. So, can you tell us anything about the ARC project?
The ARC project?
ARC.
No.
Yeah, that's what. Yes, it is what Andrew. Yes, you probably can. You just might not know it by that name, Arkheim. So the jump room technology, what Andrew Basiago has revealed is they call it ARC for aeronautical repositioning chambers. And so when they talk about the 999 Sepulveda jump room to Mars in LA, the band of Jared Leto, 30 Seconds to Mars, and Andrew Basiago, he's got a couple people with him of that earlier generation of like these projects here on Earth in linear time. They cite that, but you're probably familiar with jump rooms, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with jump rooms. I'm familiar with portals. I'm familiar with stargates.
So Andy, the answer is yes.
The name that it's the terminology that maybe versions of me are familiar with.
That's a military fancy schmancy term. Jump. Okay. But can you tell us about like your experience with jump rooms and jump?
Okay. Yeah.
Before you do, the only reason I called it the ARC is I had a guest on not so long ago. And they was kind of not asked, but they was trying to get them to go to Mars, and they mentioned the art project. It's Laura Eisenhower that was at this party, and he said this bloke come up to him, "You fancy going to Mars?" And then nothing else was really said about it. And then she heard people talking about the ARC project, or the ARC something or other. And then she kind of like backed away from it all. And that was it. So
yeah, I have her book, and I'm not finished reading it. So I would know that if I have done myself the due diligence of reading her book. But everybody came out with a book at the same time, which has made it very hard.
And they're all personal friends.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of reading like 5 different friends' books right now because they all came out with a book at the same time. Her book is older, so I don't have the same excuse with her. I should have gotten her book ages ago, so that's my fault. But yeah. But no, I've experienced. I guess the most important thing for me to point out is that they're taking kids to the public schools here in the United States, and I'm sure they're doing it in the United Kingdom and stuff like that too. But through what is called the Talented and Gifted program,
right?
Yeah, and basically what it is they take these kids in, they give you tests and stuff like that, and through a very real program, they're able to cover up this like secret space program thing. And what the actual Talented and Gifted program is, like the cover program that people are able to see on the surfaces. You know, let's say I'm just gonna use a name, Little Tommy, right? Well, the Little Tommy's a mathematician whiz, man. And it's just like, okay, well, let's make sure he gets the basic skills he needs and stuff like that. But obviously, he's going to be a mathematician. That's his future. So let's concentrate on that and give him the resources where he can excel on that instead of pretending like that's not what he's going to do with the rest of his life, right? That's kind of what the TAG program is. And it can be for different things for different people. It's not always the same. But it's basically just to help a kid identify their strength earlier in life to give them like kind of an advantage in life, which is great. That's an amazing program to have. I think that's awesome. But the reality is it's used to cover up like a secret space program, a recruitment program, where these like suits come in, like these Men in Black types, which is basically what happened to me. And I got called down to the office one day, and it was to Mrs. Peterson, the school counselor at Johnston Elementary in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'll name names here. After what they did to me, that's the least that they deserve. And and I just remember that they gave me this pamphlet and they had all these weird questions in it. And for me, I've had a lot mind wiped for me. Like, my memories were altered. And so for my life, most of my life, I was really confused. Like, I knew I was getting abducted by aliens and stuff. But this part was never, there was zero confusion about this. This wasn't a screen memory that I, like, filtered and pulled out and found or something like that, like, through the screen of fog. Like, no, it's always been there. And it was them, these weird suits coming in, and they're like, yeah, they're with the state, and they're like standing behind Mrs. Peterson, and I'm doing this weird questionnaire, and they have these questions for me, like if you were able to read minds, would you read minds to help the military and U.S. intelligence to help them prevent crimes before they happened? And the year's 2034, and there's going to be a terrorist attack on this date. It's 2 days from now, and you're tasked with walking around and invading people's. They didn't use the word invade, but going into people's minds to see if they're the terrorist. Would you be willing to do it? Which, by the way, on Earth, that's very covert. That's happening, but it's covert. On Mars and stuff like that, these guys walk around out in the open, and you know who they are. You know they're walking around reading everyone's minds. You know that that's their job. And so people are terrified of these guys. But yeah, they asked me if I'd be willing to do that job, and they also asked me do you get taken by Star Family? Like all sorts of just questions that are quite blatantly inappropriate to be asking. Yeah. Can you turn on your microphone, Brian? You're typing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
it's all good. But yeah, basically they just asked me all these really inappropriate questions, and I didn't really. I always thought it was weird. I remember telling my mom about it, and then they asked me to be in the Talented and Gifted program.
Yeah.
And I had to bring a contract home for my mom for her to sign, and the moment where I'm going to fast forward to later in my life. I've always known I was an abductee. Weird stuff was happening to me. I got into a car crash in Sherwood, Wisconsin, which is a satanic ritual abuse site in Wisconsin, which I always felt really creeped out and like time dilation, like time was stolen from me in that town. And I crashed my van in it. And it made me realize, all right, no more not looking into this. Like, this is like God or something. Trying to be like, dude, what happened to you in this town? So I started looking into it more and stuff like that. And I like meditated on it. And I realized like, oh, like talented and gifted. Like those weird questions they asked me. And like, oh, the military, like the abduction stuff, it all has to do with the military. Like the military's involved. And like I was meditating, trying to figure out like, why am I on spaceships and stuff? Why I remember like being on space, like, and why do I have missing time? Like, I'm trying to figure out who the fuck am I and why is all this stuff happening to me, to be perfectly upfront, right? And I finally just meditate on it, and I realized like, okay, during that time, this was the mind-blowing moment. Was I realized like, I went to the teacher in third grade because in second grade I was in talented and gifted, and in third grade I just wasn't in it anymore. And for me, that was confusing. So I went up to my new teacher, Mrs. Sachs. I'm using names for the first time here. I've never done this before on any other interviews. For some reason, I feel inclined to do it today. I went up to Mrs. Sachs and I asked her. I said, "Hey, where? Like, I was like, why am I not in the talented and gifted program anymore?" She's like, I don't know. I wasn't your teacher last year. And I remember, and I'm going to use names. Vino Mathia and Elliot Johnson and I think Chris Viam were all like, you weren't in the talented and gifted. What are you talking about? You weren't in the talented and gifted program with us. And I was like, and I don't know if that was uncool of me to use their names, but look, if you guys find this and get mad at me, I've had lifetimes fucking stolen from me, and this is the moment that made me realize it. And I want to ground it in fucking reality, that it's real. So that's why I'm using your names. I'm sorry. All right? And, yeah, they're just like, you weren't in the talented and gifted program with us. And I thought they were bullying me. It was the most confusing moment of my life. I remember coming home and like, Mom, these kids are like telling me that I'm not in the talented and gifted program. Didn't you like sign a contract and stuff? She's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, so I was in it, right? And she's like, no, you're not crazy. You were in it. And then like, yeah, and then they like started like asking me, like I got taken into the school counselor. And they asked me about that. And you want to know my mom? He's a smart lady. Because he watched my dad had schizophrenia and she knew this was the moment she was like, wait, maybe Kurt wasn't entirely crazy. And there was real stuff happening to him that made him go crazy, if that makes any sense. So she had a sense to treat the situation sensitively. And so when they asked her and me, she told me, when they ask you if you're in the talented and gifted program, lie to them. Tell them you weren't. Tell them you don't remember it and you never said that. So I did. I lied to them. I was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said I was in that. And with that was, I made a joke with these kids. I was like, that I was Jeffrey the giraffe. Like, and like, because my birth name's Jeffrey, and I was like, no, and like, I thought it was funny, and like, you really think you're Jeffrey the giraffe? I'm like, yeah, I'm Jeffrey the giraffe, and I was joking, man, like, I was kidding, but they didn't get that I was kidding, so they brought that up too. They brought up all this other stuff. I was like, look, you guys, I don't think I'm Jeffrey the giraffe. I'm not crazy, and it worked, and they left me alone. My mom was just like, don't talk about the aliens and stuff anymore. She's like, she told me, she's like, they'll try to take you away from me. They'll take you away from me if you talk about that stuff, and I don't want you to get taken away from me. I'm scared to death of that. Just don't talk about it. And that was the whole, I guess, moment of realizing, like the moment of realization where it all connected, and then like later on in life, like I asked my mom because I didn't think about it for years, and then I realized like, oh, the talented and gifted, like it's all connected, and I buried those memories. I knew that I buried them. And I was like, Mom, we need to go for a walk. I like hit up my mom and I was like, we need to go for a walk. I need to talk to you. It's about something really serious. She's like, all right. And I went on one of my walks with my mom. I don't live in the same town as her anymore, but when I did, I go with walks for a lot, and I miss that. But anyway, we went for this walk, and I told her, I was like you remember all that weird stuff happened to me when I was a kid? She's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, well, and she's like, I always believed you too. I want you to know that. I just, I didn't know how to react to it. I don't think anyone really would. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. I was like, well, I think that it was the military. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, remember the talented, gifted, and all those weird questions they asked me? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I think the military kidnapped me, Mom. And I think through time travel, they took me for like really long periods of time and then just put me back. She's like, it explains so much. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I remember there was one day where you like came home from school and you just weren't the same anymore, man. She didn't say man, but she's like, you just weren't the same. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you're just quiet. And you're just quiet. You just weren't the same anymore. And she's just like, and it was just something about you. It's just like you could sit there for hours and hours all by yourself with no one.
Yeah.
And you were fine. And no other kid around you was like that. Like they all were running off doing stuff, and you could be there in your own little world for hours and hours, and I wouldn't even need to ask you how you were doing. And she's like, and that was like a light that switched. Like you weren't always like that. And so yeah, that was just. I actually wanted my mom to tell me like, you need to get help and see a doctor like your dad did. But she was like, no, I believe you, and you should. And what she told me instead was, I was like, what do I do now? She's like, well, go on Facebook. What do they call it? Secret space programs? I'm like, yeah. She's like, look up like secret space programs on Facebook. Look up. There's got to be groups and stuff.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did, and it worked. Unfortunately, the first person I found was Rocco, and he's kind of crazy. Bless his heart, he's really in these programs, but yeah, it ended up working out, and now here I am, and I'm part of this community and stuff, and yeah, and I'm here helping people. I think I'm helping people.
And hey, just so everyone out there, Arkheim and I, we recently interviewed our good friend Gloria Haas, and she's a previous generation, and she has almost the exact same type of situation that Arkheim had, where Gloria, as a grade school gal, 1 year, I guess, comes back to school the next year at the beginning of a new semester or whatever, and this gal in her same age group, same grade, walks up and says, hey, Gloria, are we still going to do lunch, like we did every day or whatever, like we did last year? And Gloria literally had no memory of this person.
This, when she talked about this, if you go back and watch her interview with her, you can see that hit me in the interview. Like that stuff sucks. Like she had a friend who loved her that she had lunch with and stuff, and she's just like
every day for a year.
And then her friend thinks she's being like a stuck-up stick in the mud, like better than her, when this is her friend, man. That really hurt me to hear that.
That's the least of it. That's like
that's like such a violation of human life. Like we all know how important our friendships are, our mates, our buddies. That's everything in this world. Your friends, and then you forget a whole year of friendship. That's so wrong. It's a violation of human life.
Yep.
You want to do a couple questions?
Yeah. So I've got one. Well, I've got a few, but I've cut it down to one because it's like 6 in the chat. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you're going to be able to answer it. You don't have to give names of what I'm going to ask, but how can you talk about or tell us how many non-humans there are that are well known that are in the public eye on a daily basis?
That's a good question. Quite a bit. There's a lot of humans are hybrids and they don't know that. Like for instance, I'm a hybrid, so they can look just like us.
Yeah.
But I live in Portland, Oregon, and I didn't notice it as much when I lived in Appleton, but I've run into ET 2 or 3 times here. One time it was on the beach, and they have powerful minds, so they don't really use a cloak. It's more like they just, I look human, I look human, I look human, I look human. Yeah. And they believe it, and it just becomes true for everyone around them because their mind is here, and most human minds are like here. So it's pretty easy for them to do. Yeah. But I just remember I was on Selwood Beach here in Portland, and it was a girl with like one of those wakeboards that you paddle on. You stand on the paddle, and she was going out there. And when I was walking past her, I just sensed her psychic energy, and I saw that she was covering herself up, and her skin had this pattern on it, but it was like her skin was glowing, and she was using her mind to cover it up, and I could see through it. And as I was walking away from her, she was just saying to me telepathically, "How can you see me? How can you see me?" And I just kind of flashed the Montauk Project at her, and I was like, please don't ask that question. You don't even want to know, what do I need to tell you my whole life story? The thing is, I can see you. I'm not going to tell anybody else. I'm because she was afraid. She was not supposed to be there. We have what's called, and every country has a black ops team where if an ET is publicly cited, they will go and find that ET and kidnap them and bring them to a prison, and then they will extradite them, and they maybe even punish them before they extradite them. But they're not allowed, unless by special permission, to hang out on the surface with us. And this woman, this ET woman, for every reason, she literally just wanted to hang out in Portland with humans. She found it interesting. She was on a vacation. That's why she was here. And then another time that it happened, I ran into this guy, and he was from the underworld, and he was a Draco. And he was on the surface, and he had a bulldog. And he was using it to loosh farm people, the bulldog. The bulldog was also an ET. It was a gargoyle. But to the people on the surface, he appeared as a normal human being, and the dog appeared as a gargoyle. And what he was doing is he was antagonizing homeless people with his dog. And because homeless people we walk past them. They're also assets a lot, by the way. A lot of homeless people are time traveler assets and stuff like that. And that's why they're screaming at the wind and talking to themselves and stuff. It's because they're these programs, dude. We look right past them. We don't even look at them. We don't even treat them human. They make the perfect assets. So
monkeys.
Yeah. So, but anyway, he was harassing homeless people, his dog. And and he was antagonizing them, and he knew better. I could see him. He knew better than to do it to people who were housed. Because if the cops showed up and it's a house person, well, he's this guy with this big bulldog. He's the antagonizer. It's open and shut case. Get in the fucking squad car, dickhead. But if he's doing it to a homeless person, they might just be an erratic homeless person. And I just sent him the telepathic message. I see who you are. I see what you're doing. I'm not afraid of your little fucking dog. Get the fuck out of here, buddy. I just sent him that message, and he just looked at me, and he went on his way and got away from where we were. But those, and I know it's happened more other times, but they have to hide. Another thing that happened too when I was here in Portland is I know that this is a town of witches and warlocks. They're everywhere. This happened just 3 days ago. We're sitting at a restaurant, and in this, I can sense that this is a new timeline. We've never eaten at this restaurant before, which causes me all this goddamn stress because it's a new event. So a new event means I have to be psychically aware. And me and Kat, her right there, both knew this subconsciously. We both had visions of intruders coming in with guns and stuff like that. That's what our lives are like, because it's a new moment. So we aren't able to just accept this is a safe moment. That's because it's occurred a million times before. Yeah. So and I go into the bathroom, and these girls are talking about they could never be an asset.
Yeah, so there basically there was these go ahead
and say it. Yeah.
There were these two girls who were sitting right next to us, and this one girl was talking about they were talking about astrology, right? And they were saying things one of them was saying I always tell my kids, don't tell anyone your birth time, especially if it's a woman. If it's a man, it's less likely to be a warlock. And then they were talking about a friend of theirs, and this girl was like, yeah, she could never be a secret agent.
Just right there.
Yeah.
Right it's just a thing. And I remember I had a day where I was altering out, where I was having a time, and I went on this walk. And I hear this little girl, and I know it's not a coincidence. I know kids play with each other. They say things, but I know this was real. This little girl is if you don't listen or tell me what to do, I'll have my daddy send you to the underworld. So she told this little girl. And I'm just like walking, and like I know little kids say things and they play with each other, and they could have been like playing witches and warlocks or whatever, but I know it was like a real threat. It was super weird, and I knew that it wasn't a coincidence that I just happened to be walking by and she said this. So like the thing about Portland is it's an energy center, and with these energy centers, you're gonna have witches and warlocks, and you just need to understand that they're not all bad. Some of them can be positive witches and warlocks, but the energy centers, in my opinion, we need to try to invert them and inject positivity in them, make them positive. I also know my alter Ryan Sterling told me that there are 27 different agents, time agents around me at all times protecting me, and he told me that there are multiple cloaked starships above Portland at all time protecting all the assets here. And he basically told me that I am a lot safer here than I was in Appleton, Wisconsin, my hometown. So thank you, Brian. Brian helped move me across the country.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Right, we've got some questions for you. So, do you want to do them, Nicole, or?
Sure.
Right, I'll pop it up.
All right, Blue Shift wants to know Philadelphia experiment. True?
Yeah. Yes, it was true. Yeah, the Philadelphia experiment is, they famously were. They say it was invisibility experiment, and I guess the lie is they're actually trying to teleport it, and it did work, and it was a time travel experiment too. But they're figuring out the logistics at the time, and a lot went wrong, and that's something that people need to understand about these projects. For instance, like if you listen to Basiago, talk about stuff. If you listen to him talk about Andrew Basiago, I almost called it Alexander, but Andrew Basiago, he dealt with a lot more old hat, primitive technology than me. So he talks about how he has like radiation sickness problems and stuff like that because of the portals he went through, and those were Tesla portals. We refined all the technology, slowly got refined, and basically our goal was always to make the technology safer and more secretive, more clandestine. And so that was always the goal of every project, is to get the technology more safe, streamlined, and it eventually got to the point where, we were using like Tesla teleporters, old alien stargates we found like that. But we realized eventually, and we could have realized it a lot sooner, but we didn't, was that the easiest way to open a portal was use one of these alien chairs that strengthen your manifestation power, and you use a mirror. And you use the mirror to open a gateway to wherever you want to go. And it's literally like walking through a door. It's like you see the other side and you just walk through it. And it's just like, so like when it comes to time travel, jump gates, like it's not always the same technology exactly. It can be a little bit different. And so that's why when you hear these varying stories, it's not that we're all lying or something. It's that the technology evolved over time. And I am in a pretty highly advanced version of these projects. Like I can testify to things that are pretty unbelievable, like them killing me and then a portal opens behind me and another version of me responds from a phoenix chamber. Like I've seen that. I've fought in battles. This is the first time I've talked about it on anyone's shows. This is a new memory. I've fought in battles where every single soldier fighting in the battle is me. It's just me. A bunch of me's fighting in the battle. And every single time one of me dies, a portal opens and another me comes through. I'm like unstoppable, dude. Like these projects get insane. One thing that I remember too is like working for the Arasaka Robotics Corporation in the distant future, and I was infiltrating this reality. They were being investigated on this planet, which was not Earth. I can't remember. I think it was Avalon 3 or something like that. We're being investigated. They're figuring out that there are synthetics taking over their politicians and stuff like that. And that's the thing that can happen is synthetics will kill a politician. A lot of times they'll kill their family members and stuff around them so no one will catch on to it. But basically synthetics were infiltrating their planet and they're figuring it out. And my job was to infiltrate their detectives and stop them from figuring out that it was connected to Arasaka Corporation so that Arasaka Corporation would get any liability for this. And the whole thing happened where like I was working for them. I was an infiltrator and I was working as part of their detective team, and they were on to me. And the literal head of Arasaka Corporation was my wife. but my artificial wife, not my real wife, and she was on like a clone body, and they have what is called automaton clones, which takes just like a drop of your consciousness, like not much at all, for you to be tethered to them, so they can kind of be like asleep, and you can still be doing your own thing, and it doesn't affect you that much, but then you can activate through them. So what it was is she wanted me to activate her through her clone to tell her, hey, this is how things are going, this is what's happening, so she'd give me orders. And if people showed up to my house, I would say, honey, company's here, can you please bring out the fine china? And that was her activation codes. It would activate her, and then Arasaka, or like actual her, would come forward, so she wasn't just like the zombie, like the yeah. and like yeah, like they were onto me. These people, like the detectives, they knew I was an infiltrator, and they're onto me. And what they have is, for these clones, I had a jack in the back of my head, just like in the Matrix, and I was uploading a program, and they must have known this, and it was one that took a really long time. And I was plugged in, and I had a psychic awareness. So normally I'll be able to sense them around me and be like, oh shit, and run. But since I was hooked up to this thing and I was being uploaded with the program, didn't have the opportunity to run. So I wake up and I go, hello, Mr. Belmont. It's nice to be seeing you again. I'm sure you know why we're here. And I go, yes, you must have discovered my colleagues. I can explain. I'm like, they're just like, yeah, I'm sure you'll have a lovely time explaining that, won't you? Come with us. And I remember that I was in like my house when this happened, you guys. That was like a big house I lived in. So they brought me to a facility to question me, and I'm not answering the questions. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to bring in this device that reads your brain, and you're not going to have any choice. We're going to get the answers out of you. And so they leave to do it, and I'm sitting there with this guy, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I have a necklace, not much difference than this. It's like an amulet of some sort, but what the difference between this one and that other one is there was a poison. It was like a plastic pouch and a poison, and I'm just sitting there with him, and I just go and bite it, and I die. And I could hear him around me go, oh shit, fuck, oh no, like, god damn it, we almost had him. And then I wake up in a Phoenix chamber where there are all these clones. It's a circular room with a bunch of different clones with me. And I wake up in it, and I go to a computer, and I type in these coordinates, and then I wake up in my house, in the closet. I had a clone in a closet in my house, and I wake up there, and I wake up Arasaka, and I go, hey, like, they're on to us, and basically so guess how we get them off our tracks? We just kill ourselves, and then they have no idea where the fuck we were. So that's how it is. Like, we're like so untrackable. Like, we literally just killed ourselves, and then they know we're not dead. They knew that we were out there. They knew about the Phoenix Chamber, but there was no way for them to track us at all. And that's how crazy these time corporations get.
And the Arasaka Corporation, they try to, Arkheim's talk about how they want to limit their liability. Well, they use stuff like soft disclosure to video games. Arasaka Corporation appears like all these random video games, movies, shows, and stuff almost randomly. Like, one of my favorite video games growing up was Wipeout on like PlayStation, and it's about like this anti-gravity racing sled league on like some futuristic worlds, and it's super teched out. And I believe, from John Whitberg and Arkheim's testimony and everyone else, and that's the Arasaka Corporation that they're basically referencing and disclosing in a soft disclosure, jokey kind of way. Like, let's put in a video game, right?
It's also plausible deniability, because here I am talking about Arasaka Corporation, unbeknownst to me, it's in a video game. So then anybody who hears that in the public eye is immediately, oh, this is some fucking loon on the internet talking about a video game that he played when he was a teenager. That's plausible deniability. It's the reason, like, and it sucks because it's a double-edged sword, because them showing us reality in our media can be powerful, and it can show us, hey, this is what's possible, but it also can be used as a magician's wool to pull over our eyes and make us not see this is real. You know what I mean? You think, oh, fiction, Hollywood, which is why the first theaters that opened up were called ISIS theaters, and they're all connected to black magic, and it's all black magic, all of it. It's all black magic. There might be some good filmmakers that are just artists trying to make cool art and stuff and caught up in the mix, but 90% of it's black magic.
Cool. Right. We have got -1 minute left. but we do have 5 questions.
Well, we kind of covered this one already. What do you need to open a portal, and what is that one we already went through.
Yeah, we can clear this one. We've kind of done that. Right. So, yeah.
This one's from Baby with a Laser. Arkheim, any truth in Obama being part of these programs?
Yeah, he was on Mars. He was one of the first Americans sent to Mars by us in this current incarnation to scope out what's there, see what's possible, just kind of, just like a pioneer of that. And yeah, Andrew Basiaco's testimony is important. And have you interviewed him ever, you guys?
Is that?
Have you interviewed Andrew Basiago?
No.
Well, I have an interview with him on me and Brian's channel. It was before we started working together, so it's just with me. And John Whitberg actually interviewed him, so that's pretty powerful. It's a pretty awesome interview. There's 2 parts. I interviewed Andrew Basiago, and he explains a lot of that. He actually personally knows Obama, and he talks about them a ton in those videos, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Barry Sotero was the name that he used in the programs.
Yeah, because Andrew says he calls him Barry.
Mm-hmm. And Andrew actually has nice things to say about him. He doesn't. He thought he was a stand-up guy, so I don't know. Interesting.
Yep. Right. This is from Derek, Woodriders DG. Question: how do the leaders of the SSP programs get into the positions of power they are in? Does aliens select them, or does ET select them, etc.?
That is so complicated. Yes. The Draco and the Zahami or the Anunnaki or whatever, they are in control of a lot of the politics of Earth, and I guess like you could call them Time Lords. That's what I call them. I think is a really apt name for what they are. They basically just pull the strings and manipulate time, and that's like, to me, that those are the biggest people. They can be human, they can be reptilian, they can be alligator people or mantid beings or whatever. Those are really the ones who are like deciding who is allowed to be where and when. And another thing that they've noticed is like certain people have a weight to them. So the fabric reality of space-time, picture it's a blanket, okay? And picture you put a marble on that blanket. Well, some people, there's a little tiny marble you throw on that blanket. They don't really affect the fabric of space-time. Someone like me, and I'm not trying to be a narcissist talking myself up, but it's just the reality of it. It's a blessing and a curse. When you throw me on the fabric of space-time, it droops way more. It affects the fabric of space-time way more. They use that measurement to choose people that they're going to manipulate and mind control and put in these programs. How much do they affect the fabric of space-time? Because you could send some other guy back in time and do the same exact thing as me, and then you go back to the future, and it's not really any different. But you send me to do it, and because I affect that fabric of space-time more, it actually pushes that reality through the door and creates the change that they want to create.
Right. It's very... I get all that because I do listen and read a lot about how that kind of works. So I can get my head around that. At first, it's like, I don't even...
It's a lot. Like, for me, I experience this stuff on a regular basis. I am an alternate dimension time traveler person, and I am constantly like for instance, like 3 or 4 days ago is when I got the memory of the temple and the all the Mies, and I'm just sitting there like, what the like, Kat can tell you, I'm just like dude, like I'm just having my coffee in the morning, and I'm just like, what the fuck? It's intense, dude. Living this life, like, and my alter told me, he's like, I thought you were ready. It was Ryan and Xavier, which Xavier was very kind of rude to you, Brian. I'm sorry about that. But they're both like, we thought you were ready to see that finally, so we showed that to you. And it's just like, so like I'm learning, like it gets crazy. And I know that a lot of people are going to hear that and they'll be like, this guy's making that up. There's no way that's real. Or he's delusional. Look, I remember that. The emotions behind it are really intense, and that's how I judge whether something's real or not. Like, they can put screen memories in your mind and make you remember things that aren't real, but like that, the motion of it is the reason why I was like drooling, getting the memory back, because it's like it was just so intense. And I really do think it is real. And I also do think it's like, I've noticed other people in these programs, they get screwed with, they get followed around, they get targeted. They don't do that to me. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like maybe they're afraid of me or something. Seriously, I don't mean to sound like I say full of myself or narcissistic, but I honestly think they're actually kind of fucking afraid of me. I mean, if you knew a guy has the capability to like you kill him and then just a copy just appears and stuff, yeah, you're probably gonna feel a little wary about targeting that person.
Yeah.
And here's a tip. Again,
Go ahead.
I was going to say a quick tip with Arkheim speaking to for recalling memories. I've heard many other people in the community speak to this too. Is it often is helpful to connect first with the emotion of whatever you're feeling, and through connecting with the emotion, you can then regain the more intellectual understanding.
Yes, it's such a huge thing. Like for instance, like I've been feeling this sense of like fucking cars everywhere, and just like just weird feeling, and like I feel so out of place, and so is Kat. And so I followed that feeling, I followed that emotion, and I realized that we were on this planet called Belmont. Like 3 days ago, for they have a eclipse festival. This eclipse only happens every 663 years or something like that. And we were on that planet for like a week or something like that. And it was just this magnificent place. There isn't poverty. There aren't, like homeless people on the streets, like these loud cars everywhere and stuff. Like it was just like this beautiful place. And so by following that emotion of feeling like really out of place here and like weird, I was able to remember that we were on this planet for this solar eclipse festival. And I want to say something kind of funny too, is Trump was there. I saw Trump there. It was literally Donald Trump. Maybe an alter, but I don't think so. I think it was literally him. Him in this time space might not remember this, but he was there. And it was kind of funny. I just remember walking into this room. It was like this giant chamber. And there are all these people in like togas. Like they're like grayish togas. And they're all like talking and stuff like that. And I remember Trump was there, and he was one of them. He was facing me, and he saw me, and he kind of like gave me the nod, like he knows who I am, which is very strange for me. He knows who I am. Yeah. He kind of gave me the nod, like hey, and I didn't really talk to him that much because it was just like there's so much going on. We're smoozing with people, dude. This is a huge festival that people come from all over the place, different time periods and stuff like that, just to be there for this moment. And the other thing I remember is I got on an elevator and I was going to my room, and Trump gets on the elevator, and he's standing next to me, and just kind of awkward moment. So he makes some small talk with me, and he's like, did you know about the crane migration in the morning? I'm just like, no, the crane migration? What are you talking about? He's like, it's magnificent. 70,000 cranes, 700,000. I don't know the number, but it's just so many you can't count them, covering the sky. He's like, they have these mausoleum buildings where you can look at them, and the birds won't. Their poop won't get on you, whatever he's explaining to me. He's like, everybody, they forget about the birds. They party too hard, and they miss the birds in the morning. He's like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Don't miss it. So sure enough, thanks, Trump, wherever you are, I made sure to get up and see these birds fly, and it was awesome. So kind of a funny thing. Like it's weird, and it's so silly because it is part of it. It makes it sound crazy, right? Like people are like, why would they use celebrities in these programs? Like people talk about Tom Cruise, Kevin Spacey, Trump, all these people. They're like, why would they do that? It's for this. It's because it makes us sound nuts, dude. It's perfect. It's such good psychological operations. They know what they're doing. Makes us sound crazy.
And there's more to it, right? Because maybe you could speak to this, Arkheim, about Gabriel Kruger, Tom Cruise and Gabriel Kruger, or Kevin Spacey and Paul Serene. How the celebrities down here on Earth sometimes are clones of these people who are in the programs. And when you think about it like this, here on Earth, if they find someone who's super psychic or super beautiful and they take them, why wouldn't they take a David Bowie or a Shirley Temple or a singer like Janis Joplin? True story. John Whitberg says she's in the Breakaways.
Oh, no, I know her extremely well. Yeah, she is.
I need to say we've got 3.5 minutes left, and then we've got to end it.
Well, I just want to say I know I give long-winded responses sometimes, but I hope that they've been informational to the audience and that people have learned a lot.
definitely. Thank you.
And this has been awesome too, by the way. Like any other time you want to have me on here, like, and also like I really should, you know, have you guys on my show too. I feel like that's kind of the protocol, right? I can learn a lot from you guys too. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of this.
Yeah.
So we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we can cross pollinate here.
Yeah, we've got the group chat, so it's all good.
Brian, you have any quick updates on the Disclosure Now conference before we?
Oh, geez. Well, yeah. I mean, what I can say is the lineup of presenters that we're going to have returning, and then the new people coming back, and then just trying to how I'm like incorporating everyone that I can. Like if I don't have room for them to be a presenter, they can always maybe do a workshop or be an MC host and be part of the
It's very
stream.
much so like you don't. There's not like really like guests there. That makes sense. Like everybody's a special VIP, like important. Like there's no one you see there, and you're like, everyone's important. Like everyone knows they're a part of this awesome, important thing, whether they are a speaker and or whatever, or someone who paid, you know, and they're just a guest. Everybody is like there to network, and the presentations are amazing. Like don't get me wrong. But the beautiful part is the in between, the hanging out, the watching the sunset on the beach, and just stuff like that, and just like it's amazing, you guys. Like I cannot understate how amazing this conference is. Like it's worth coming from the UK if you can. Like
I am
for real. You are.
I've put
yes.
Okay. We have to solidify. I'll talk to you. We'll talk to you guys off air about the
awesome
conference.
That's awesome. That excites me.
And I want to mention, you know, in line with what Arkheim was saying is, you know, a lot of the attendees even are people who they themselves belong on the stage doing presentations, and you wouldn't necessarily know it, but they'll reveal themselves. And when you listen to their testimonies, it turns out a lot of these people, they're also Montauk survivors.
Everywhere you turn, wisdom. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you sit, everywhere you look, wisdom. People with their own stories, people with their own knowledge. And yeah, sure, there's a few people where they're just like, hey, I'm just here to ask questions. I'm just learning. But those people are awesome too. We need them. Like, you know what I mean?
Come on down.
You need the questions.
Yeah. And what's funny too is I'm finding some of these people. I actually pulled one or two of them aside, and I was just like, why do you think you're so interested in this stuff? And they're like, I don't know. It is kind of weird. Huh? I'm like, do you think that maybe you could be in these programs? And they're just like, well, I've got this military background in my family. I'm like, say no. So that's the thing. It's like a lot of people are discovering themselves through this, realizing like they're not some outsider. The reason why they're so attracted to this information is because they're like, that's something that I want people to understand is this is human slavery. Have you ever seen that meme of like Tim Heidecker? And it's like, it's free real estate. Well, it's free labor. Like that's what it is for them. Like it's free labor. So it's not that hard to make a clone. It's not that the amount of money they put into it compared to the amount of money they get out. That's the reason why they're doing it. And it's not just psychics or people who are talented. They need plumbers. They need janitors. They need chefs. They need taxi drivers or whatever.
Arkheim, even if you're psychic, they'll still turn you into a taxi driver, right?
Yeah, for sure. They literally will do that. Like I said, Marshall Howard, that altar miner, he was a construction worker, a miner. He was doing hard labor. That was what he would do for a living. So
John Whitberg saw Sean Connery's altar on a secret space colony as a taxi driver and had to murk him.
Wow.
So weird.
It's in The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes.
Yeah.
Read it.
Everybody go check that out.
Yeah. We keep. I'm gonna message Johnny out. I'm like, we're giving you a lot of free press, brother. Well, he's doing it. He's putting it out there for free. He deserves it.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you guys so much for coming on today. This was really, really interesting.
That's one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. I love it when people just let me rant about stuff. I've got a lot to say, so
it makes it easier for us. So much more easier.
Yeah.
And so we get to the questions. It's like shit. We've got like 30 seconds and like 7 questions.
Now, all right, we do have to cut. We're way over time.
Because this is the reason why we are on X Network over in the US. Nice. It usually goes out at 10 p.m. on a Saturday EST. But because we went over last week, it went out on the Sunday or the Monday. I think it was 7 p.m. but we will still go out regardless in the next 3-4 days. So,
but we try not to make their life hard. And
we try and keep it.
Well, I want to give a shout out. Margie K is amazing. She's very gifted psychic.
Oh yeah. She's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
so awesome. Yes.
Right. So thank you both for coming on, Brian and Arkheim, Nicole for co-hosting, Joe and Og for doing all the moderating, everyone in the chat. Sorry we couldn't get through all the questions. Everyone listening and watching on YouTube, everyone who's going to be listening on podcasts, really appreciate you getting the downloads and listening more. And hopefully we'll get more people joining the Patreon to help support the channel and keep it running. So we are part of Onyx Network, Paranormal Radio over in the US. So yeah, it's all good. So massive thank you to absolutely everybody that's part of this today. And we will see you. Not got anything Monday. We are back on Wednesday. It is non-paranormal, and it is with Phil Maudsley, who does MMA and he's appeared in Hollywood movies doing a lot of the fight scenes. So he's going to be on, and possibly somebody else. So we're going to talk about that. So have an amazing weekend, everyone. Thanks again, Arkheim, and thanks, Brian, and thank you, Nicole. And we will see you Wednesday, 8:30, 3:30 EST. Take care and goodbye. Bye.